Hello everybody, and we're going to do something differently as I'm going to be here ranking every single episode of Kamen Rider Gotchard from my least favorite to my most favorite. Yet not worth the best, as I think that each episode is subjective to everybody's own taste, and we also want to know more about everybody else's personal feeling of how they feel in each episode. To start off, we're going to do this whole little system. Hopefully it gets enough traction because I want to keep doing this for the rest of the season. So for now, let's start with my least favorite to most favorite. And remember, everything here is my own bias. And please comment down below if you have any other personal favorite episode or least favorite episode. Also, of course, spoilers. So let's start. Yeah, so this is another filler that is the weakest to me throughout the entire season. They started with a storyline with Rina being jealous over Hotaro's friend Seina coming back. Started trying to figure out where she stands with Hotaro, but I don't really get how it tried to convey through the message that many people get confused in either a romance or friendship that's trying to be conveyed here. And mostly just follow main criticism of writing female characters for Rider in the most part. Also that the play of Romeo and Juliet doesn't really do much with the characters like the main play for Mercuria, as he doesn't really come back in future episodes compared to like every other minor character. It would be nice to see him come back to defend Hotaro and Rine. Also, first time seeing Legend being the incentive for Kyoka, Kyoto attacking the bait that never expanded upon with any other counterattack to see. Also focused on her art, forcing her family to come together. Also, a joke that Sabi makes saying that Hotaro name becoming 100, which is a nice callback to an early episode of Rine and Hotaro that never really expanded upon, just for a funny little callback. Also, a trouble messing with Rine, as she just wanted to get rid of Seina for her enjoyment, so you just add more dynamic for that, but you know, nothing really much to say. Probably the weekend episode that I want to rewatch again. We have the second parter of this two-part episode of the play, with Rine realizing that she's weak but gets over it quickly in the first part of the episode. And the rest of it is her talk with Seina in order to fix the relationship they have with each other and with Hotaro, which is pretty much fixed near the end. And also start of Kyoko wanting to make Lakase a human, and the first mention of the Abyssal Kings by name. Also Topo missing her dad for future episode references, and also to make the play, which is pretty nice to see a complete version of it in the TDC exclusive online. Also, Lakase gets the Balbara sword that she barely uses throughout the entire show, and the character arc ending with Rina just saying that she'll just work harder for Gotcha with her helping others like Hotaro. Also, Giga is appearing at the end for the first time. Now we have the start of the Christmas episode with the story of the friendship of Hotaro and Rine, finally cementing the friendship and becoming real friends from now on. Also, I think this is Kyoko's first introduction through a voiceover, as she mostly just said to keep an eye on Rine for Spanner, and instantly just said for telling us, so that seems to be a plot point that dropped. Also, multi-story of Sawa and her father wanting to find dinosaur, and the topic focusing on dreams over your relationship, and kind of a weird acting for the Sawa actor that didn't really get into it. Interesting to know that Tacha is first appeared here as an editor for Sawa's father, and it's pretty interesting to note that how crazy it is that he'll be important in the final arc. Also, first time seeing how Hotaro Hopper won men in the past that doesn't really go anywhere in future episodes, except for the Daybreak episode. So yeah, a little bit rushed, but also the debut of X-Rex at the end, which is pretty nice to see. And now we have the opposite problem from last episode, and this second parter being slow with the pacing. I must tell you, this is just a slow pacing. I feel like they could have combined these two episodes to one. And just the conclusion of Sawa and her father's story, which is nice, but nothing special at all. Also, Rina and Topo talk ending with Topo being really out of character, having her scream, saying that it's not true that she wants to have friends. But it's a little bit weird that it never comes back to play and her acting like this. Would have been nice to see that later on, maybe when she Grion betrayed her. Would have been nice to see that. Also, that little Ichigo reference with Helter saying that people believe in his driver and his gotcha in order to make the little cyclone, which is a pretty nice little thing. And Kyoto unconsciously thinking of protecting her family for the first time. Also, the first look at X-Wizard with Kukimiya for the crossover film of Gito and Gotchard coming out in the continuity-wise from this episode. This is an episode where Spanner seems to be attached to Rine that doesn't seem to last that long in the early part of the Gotchard season, and it started to cover rumors around the city. Also, the first mention of the darkness door and the sister wanting to open it. Hotaro learns about Fuga being Rina's dad, and her learning that Fuga is dead. And also introducing a new form changer. A nice character development for Rina and Hotaro's friendship, where they bond over their fathers just being out of their lives, which is just funny in retrospect. But not really, I don't think it is a true friendship until episode 14, where they cement themselves as actually good friends. Also, Hotaro's special being given to Rina for the first time, and also the start of the running gag and nobody actually liked his food. Not much of an episode, but it's a pretty standard episode overall for a writer. We have another filler arc of a two-part episode focusing on Renga and her grandmother in the village that she grew up with the main problem being a shrine that has a kitsune in it that protects them. Also that it's going to be torn down by land sharks coming in to take it down. The basic story of a grandmother treating their grandchild as being soft and all that, like they're still a kid. And the fact that the association is first time just swiping everything out under the rug, well, what Grion did, starting up the story of how the association might not be stubborn to change their way, but the plot never seemed to go anywhere with that. It's the thing that Sabi is said to be fixing Isaac at his parents' place, like literally parents' place, but we later find out that he grew up in the facility with his brothers, so I guess they retcon that later on. Nothing interesting to know as the change. Also, that Minato Spanner mentioned that they want to have a big change for the association. They only mentioned here and other times, but never seemed to go anywhere for the most part, other than Spanner's little tirade in the later episode. Also, Rina liking scary thing that it brought back from an earlier episode, and an annoying character Hoshino coming in with I do not like him, just like he never came back, and Kajuki being his assistant. Also, there is a funny scene of an obvious doll being thrown out of the water on the waterfall scene, which is forever gonna be stuck in my head. I just remember that scene forever. It's just never gonna leave out of my head. And here we have the first filler episode with Kemi, Zukumpire, with Renge being infatuated with him along with others, including Kajuki, which is just funny. It's mostly just a silly episode, I don't mind it. Mostly focusing on the human character Yua and Zukumpire, and the fact that these people are just dying, but seems like he never meant to have them no harm. And the fact that he can just mind control other people, control their body, go inside of them, which is pretty funny to see how the actors try to mimic the Kemi, which is pretty nice to see. Also, Koto get the power up with no lasting implication at all. And they pretty much acted that needed clothes in order to act in the cold weather, which is funny to me. The second and the final part of the Zukumpire episode with Yua, as Zuku just wants everybody to be happy and doesn't want to force it to anybody to be happy and love. And it was just required by Yua being dumped by her ex. And we actually get over it, and we find out the ex is, ironically, also Tachan, who is again pretty interesting to know that he's going to be important later on in the show. Really wish they could have brought this story element into his motivation to try to actually reason why he hates Kemi. Like, it would be interesting to see that, but I digress. Also, this is the debut of the new Rina form changer. You only had one form changer, it's just this one that debuts here. Also, they started agreeing on not being happy with Kyoto at all, and mostly just focusing on Tropo to further his plan in this episode. The conclusion of Renge's arc in their own village, a mystery person attacking people with a Kitsune statue being possessed by a nine-tailed Kemi. Which would be cool to see other Kemis do the same as becoming Malgun, but interesting to note that emoting Malgun with negative emotion could have been an interesting plot point to bring up, that Malgun was created out of pureness and just wanted to help people, but never goes out in any way to help the plot forward. Also, more thing of how Renge and her grandmother interact with one another, which is that's nice to see, and Renge proving that she's gonna be fine without her grandma, trying to know everything about her life, and it's okay to let her go, while helping defeat the Malgun alongside Hotaro. Also, Marina talk is just a basic thing, wondering why she wanna live, and more topic and they're connecting to build up that connection that's not gonna be that satisfying at all. Again, I like the Malgun being good, but never brought up as a topic. Really wish that would have happened. Interesting how the episode started with Lakita giving somebody Kemi out a love problem, which is funny to see in retrospect how she got struggled with love later in the show. Also, this being Spanner and Lakita's first meeting, which is just funny. Also, Spanner hating Hotaro's food for the most part. I love the fact that this is actually Spanner's hater like episode debut, and it never comes back in the picture for the last two episodes. It would have been interesting to see him participate in the memory wipe story arc, as the potential for Spanner to be like very vengeful. Not really vengeful, just funny to see that he still doesn't remember him at all, but still would be interesting to see how he's been mistreating people and all that. Like, that would be fun to see. But to help elaborate how the association isn't run that well, and that also interesting, the little jealous guy said that he's a part of a family of alchemists, which is just a part of world building that never seems to come back at all to the plot. Also, Hotaro jealous Spanner, but gets over it quickly by the end of the episode, which is just nice to see. Also, having a form I forgot existed, being Bernie Gorilla being introduced, because he never uses it throughout the rest of the show. And Tropo having red eyes, showing that the three sisters are adults for the first time and interested in Rine in this episode. This episode continues the story of Riku and Sabo Nido as well as his father, but it's just the basic ending to the story of the father and son connected with one another. Also adding the fact that Hotaro, Junior, Human, and Kemi living together starts in this episode, and Rine and Tropo talk for the first time in like how they don't want to involve people into their fight, and also telling you that Fuga may be alive. Also forgot that there's a new form changer in this episode, Doki the Shovel, that's never used in the rest of the show ever again. But that's just a standard episode for Kamen Rider about father and son. And this is the middle part of the Legend episodes that to me is the weakest for me, and it doesn't feel to do much as it just retrans most of the topic for the special of Legend Rider Gotchard. And mostly just the same topic of how Kemi are their friend, not weapon, and made Hoto remember Kaguya pretty quickly from Legend Rider Gotchard special. But it's nice to see 02 for Arc 1 fight with one another, and we never got to see that in the original show. Nice to see, and some nice action, but ends weirdly in how there's a fight and it has to defeat Hotaro to make sure he doesn't follow him to battle, which is resolved pretty easily in the next episode. Giga is first time sensing Nichikan inside a driver with Hotaro as he continues to march to his plan. This is the episode where we formally meet Sabi and Renge and Spanner, and more form changer with Bushido being a character that wants Hotaro and him to be in the same page, and that he should start listening to the Kemi without acting like he knows what's best for them. But it's pretty good that he learns this early on in the show, which helps him start to have Kemi be attached to him. Also help with Kemi feeling like more of a living thing rather than plot devices, and actually feeling like actual characters for the most part. Also having Spanner's whole character Kemi ruining the natural order and not just be used for tools, which would be pivotal for future plot points, as well as his debut for Valveron in this episode. This episode debuted Nido Hawk, and also includes the lovable smartphone, which we don't see a lot because I love smartphone. He's cute. Pretty much the typical monster of the week, Riku and Sabo Nido's relationship and his problem with his dad over his education, and Hotaro wanting him to relax. The dad also becoming an amalgam as well. More Renge Karin needing money, which is just funny for a future episode, and her gag would be living in the village. First time Otropo meeting with Rine, but doesn't really do anything till the next episode of this two-parter, and Spanner continues his daughter Kemi to be a tool that Sabi helps Hotoro out with his Kemi problem, starting their whole relationship early on. This is an episode that should have probably have come earlier, but still nice to see how Sabi's focus episode came from a relationship with his brother in the growing up in the facility, having the freeze formula be introduced here so they can be used in the final episode for our two alchemists, Rose and Gal, and the topic of creating Kemi that will later be used for Grion in the film and for his final form of Eldo to create the little sphere and as well as El Dragon. And also Spanner not liking that they're making new Kemi and that somebody calls out of the organization they work for need to accept Grion and that they just sweep the crime underneath the rug that should have been more prevalent to the main story, but still I digress. Also Grion's past working in this facility where the head scientist Mami still thinks about him as he started to Kamadon for the first time, and also answered that Isaac was created by brother Keiichi and his relationship with Sabi as well as the creation of Kamadoji answered in the next episode of this two-parter. This is the ending of Rini and Otropo relationship that comes to an end, and it's something that could have done more of because it feels kind of weak to me compared to the other two writers' relationship with their own story arc. And this is the last time we see Fuga in the flesh, as he never appeared ever again, only in a suit for Win in the last episode and then nothing else. And Kriyucha wanted to save his daughter just to mess with Fuga and with Otropo. And Otropo dies and becomes a marketable ring for Ring for her to transform to Twilight Midget, her final form. But it's at least nice to see, but I don't really like the suit or the Jingo at all, so it's not really a big impact to me. Also, the mention of Chimera that Otropo was going to be created into that never seemed to come to play at all would have been nice to see. Also, Rina realizing that she and Otropo are the same because they are one and the same people, and a missed opportunity to make Grion and Fuga find their writer form would have been nice to see. Also, Otropo just being jealous of the relationship with her father, and she just wanted a friend all the way back from the first episode, which I still think it would have been better if she outburst like a little kid, like from that episode 14 of X-Rec. Would have been nice to see. Also, Kalia that confirming that the king were all one human, but nothing really does that, only that we got confirmation by the director a couple of days ago for the recording of the video that they were human, that the Dark King created them as humans, but still. Could have been more for a plot point in this show, but nothing much. This is the first part of the Legend episode that I feel like a lot more better. We get introduction to Hundred in the show, but it still feels like a Gotchard episode overall. And the main focus is still on Kyoto and Hotoro's relationship and rivalry. And it also introduced the criminal from episode 49, it means the Alamoto Kare's amalgam. And both Kyoto and Hotoro get stuck in a maze with the 100 organization by Gigas. And Hotoro Rima gives Kyoto a reason to fight, which is to fight to protect her family and keep them together. With Joker proposing the idea to Laki's first time being human, fully transformed to human. Also, Kyoto getting an abyssal gear. That doesn't really do much. It just lacked a few fights throughout the rest of the show. And just get removed by Galia later on. So it's not really much of a big deal in hindsight. As well as Giga just revealing himself to the rest of the cast for the following episode. Here we are, the first episode that started all, episode 1. It's a good enough introduction to the world of Gotchard and his character with some implication of Hopper 1 and Hotoro knowing each other, which again doesn't really go much deeper into that. And continue the running thing of Hotoro naming his writer form throughout the entire show, which is nice to see. Although Hotoro actor Junsei Motojima doesn't seem to be that well into the role just yet, which does drag it a little down for me, as you feel like he's not used to the role and have to wait a couple episodes to get fully into the role of Hotoro. But still a pretty nice opening episode for this season. This is the start of the Kajiki focused episode, as well as the first viewing of UFO X, as well as the start of the Kyoto episode arc. As well as the start of creating a Dread Driver, with Lactic calling Spanner a dog, which is pretty funny in hindsight for what the relationship is going to be in the future. Also fun antics of Hotoro not having his Kemi for plot reasons, so there could be a dire situation when the amalgam appears, but Hopper sneaks in, which is just cute. Also a nice little joke of Ria liking scary stuff that doesn't really come to play for another 20 episodes later for a gag. Also Kajiki interacting with Hichiri after a chanted character, which is cute for them, and her brother set up as the criminal for the next episode. That will later come back later in around the episode 40 when the memories come back. Also nice to see Hotoro and Kajiki interacting as friends, as there isn't much episodes showing their friendship, as Hotoro puts away the whole Kemi thing in order to help Kajiki with his love life. And Kyoto rivalry with Hotoro starts here fully, as Bat King Robo gets shown here and then never again until the last episode. Nice episode overall, but still, pretty basic. This is an episode where Nijikan starts his journey to finding the purpose and what he wants to do with his life in order to help cheer, motivate people to make them grow and become better, in order to prove Spanner wrong about being evil. He also had a cameo from a Kamen Rider girl with 2 new songs for us to listen to. At Gigas tempts Spanner with the Black Flames, and the first tease of the shift between Lakitin and Spanner, as well as Grion coming back to life after Otropo put the Rubik's Cube inside of Jermaine in order to kill him. Nice basic episode of Nijikan and character where it just ends there. And cool to have the Kamen Rider girl writer Friendship and Beverly song be playing the fight scene against Jeremiah. Really nice to see it, pretty much more memorable for me throughout the entire show. This is the second episode of the entire show where we had to learn more of the Alchemist Society as well as some of the rules and how the Kemis work, as well as learning how their personal feeling and thought making them alive in a unique way that Hotaro passes the test to start his journey of finding different methods. And this whole topic of finding his own answers to difficult questions will continue throughout the rest of the season. This is the first instance of Fuga being Rina's dad and her hatred toward him, as well as the book being called Alchemist of the Dawn, which would later be changed to Alchemist of Daybreak or something like that. Like either subtitle change or they changed the naming of the book to be more in line with Gotchard Daybreak. Rising Fire plays for the first time, which I really like that song. As well as Hotaro's dad is meant to either traveling the world and that the restaurant being his dream, but this whole plot point is dropped later in the show. It's funny to see in retrospect. And to start Hotaro's dream of trying to become a big shot alchemist, as Spanner being teased at the end as Valvarot, ending the episode. This is the first mention of the Door of Darkness by name, as well as Grion being name dropped, the master of the three sisters. And we finally have Junsei get better playing the character Hotaro, and he feels much better starting from this episode. And a joke by Sabi saying that Hotaro's name had the number 1 and 9 to make 10, but doesn't come out of this little foreshadowing and joke. Also the first instance of Sabi liking Hotaro, which will be reported later as the friendship grows. And not the idea attack partner from the wrestler Asashi, which would later come back in episode 47 Gotchard. Ooh, Asashi's a nice character. It's pretty cute with him actually with wrestler G friendship. And nice of him to help out Hotaro defeat Goroki in this episode. Pretty nice pace in the story as well as the debut of my favorite form changer being Ant Wrestler in this episode. This is the episode Jeremiah and Gali are fully introduced as Grion's Rubik's Cube come back to play as it's gonna be important for the next episode for Jeremiah to be eaten. Also telling us that Grion was the doll that Jeremiah ate him in episode 27. Really confusing because it looks more like the Dark King rather than Jeremiah. Also Fuga comes back from the dead again to no fanfare at all as he's gonna be gone for 8 episodes and a film from this episode onward. More of trouble manipulating Rine to get Grion back, and Jeremiah saying he created alchemy, which is not really done with anything with a plot point. Also they fight for the throne, never come back to play, and all one Nichikan he mentioned that he had a piece of philosopher's stone in order to become stronger than the other two. And it's better first time bringing up that they don't need Kemis again in the world in order for the world to have peace, with the start of his character arc for the final storyline. As Nichikan starts the journey to prove Spanner wrong, and all close to Legacy fight with each other and their thoughts about family, which will be important later on in the show. This is the final episode focusing on Spanner with Legacy, and the missed opportunity of Legacy transforming one last time, and she never transformed this episode again. Many characters come back to talk things out with the angry mob that we had a lot of characters from the first filler episode that come in talk against the angry mob that the writer and the alchemist are good people. There's an opportunity to see it through in just the second to last episode. Also agree on making El Dragon and Legacy dying at the end, and saddened that she can't have a date with Spanner, which is a nice sad moment between the two of them. There's a nice scene of Hotaro and Grion talking at their different takes on living at the moment and the main theme about moving forward, which is gotcha, and then being stuck in the present. Like I feel like that's the main theme of the whole story, being emphasized in this talk between Grion and Hotaro, which will later be expanded on in the final episode. Spanner turning the flame silver as he showed the next evolution of the black flame, and finally accepting Hotaro as his friend and wants to believe in the dream. And it's interesting to know that he still believes in the dream, but he will not really accept it until he sees it through. But will still help him anyway to finish their end goals being the same, which is nice to know. I'm gonna bring it back to the little line that Giga said, the darker the shadow, the brighter the light, turning himself into his final form, Valvora Kurugane, the Iron Man. Also weird pacing how the episode ends with Spanner taking Legacy's corpse away, but then the last minute just feels like the start of a final episode rather than the ending of this one, which really does cut the tension a little bit for this episode from being a lot more higher. This is the debut of Fuga's win, and also the death of him, because of course he is. Fuga is the most wasted character in the entire show, and again only to be revealed that he's just a clone, and missed opportunity with this character, as well as the fact that Legacy is worried that she'll be betrayed by Grion and want to leave to join with Minato. Also the lore of how the first two Kemis were Gaiar and Dragonolith, which is funny how Grion had Dragonolith Q and just never used it before, just for dramatic tension. Also the fact that Dragonolith knows about the black flame from Spanner, which is nice detail because Giga did create Gaiar and Dragonolith, so of course he will know about the black flame. Also nice having the difference between Kloto and Tropo, that Kloto doesn't want to kill Legacy, but Tropo does, which starts their whole dynamic of wanting to be opposite one another. And to start everybody entering the Ouroboros realm to stop Grion for starting his chemistry. This is the halfway point of Kamen Rider Gotchard episode. Let's take a break. Alright, now the break is over, let's continue with the second half of my list. This episode is just a relaxing episode after the final form debut, and mostly just a chill episode where they finally collect the last two Kemi to make the complete 101 Kemi collection. Giga gives Kloto more power, but makes her addicted to it. That has nothing to the long run of things. And the mistreating the sister making Tropo want to revive her father faster. Dino Rine appeared and is cute. Kloto wants to keep her family together again with Legacy, who doesn't really turn to Valvarot to defend herself for some reason. There's a talk between Hotaro and Giga where Hotaro overcomes Sev, and Giga thinking he's dumb, and that's why he camping mallet, but Hotaro said it's not true, as he just wanted to see the positive things in life. And the start of Rainbow Bread and the Gotchard Butter Power for the rest of the show. Although Minato Spanner wanted to change the association, which doesn't really go anywhere for the last few episodes, except for Spanner wanting to take it to his own hand later on in his fight against Hotaro. As well as the first introduction to Jeremiah and Gallia at the end of the episode. This is the proper debut of the Legend storyline, as we have his villains from the Gotchard vs. Legend special coming in as just generic 100 villains to infiltrate the Gotchard world to try to find the MacGuffins, which is the legendary legend power-up. Also, Butler is back and interacts with Kajiki a little bit, which is nice to see. Also funny how the people cheer for Gotchard here, while later episodes will start to bully the gang, mostly because of the memory erasure thing. Also, Lacazette transformed in the episode for the first time as Balbaron, with Kyoto caring for her, she doesn't want to kill her. As well as Zane appearing here just to promote outsiders, and it's cool to see old villain suit back in order to fight against our main riders. And Kaguya turning to past 10 Heisei riders, which is pretty nice to see for fan service, and then turning into his final form, Legendary Legend, to defeat the 100 member. I will Giga thinking that they are finding a super weapon, which is nice to know he thought of the Philosopher's Stone at first. Nice start to the whole Legend storyline. This is the best episode in the entire Legend storyline. So one complaint that the pacing, that there's a timer that appears that the world's gonna end in 24 hours, but then the next time it's already 10 hours, which is pretty fast. But it goes by quickly without feeling the end of the world is coming. As Hotaro and Kaguya fight briefly, but it's resolved quickly. As Spanner tells Kaguya they can't get rid of Hotaro ever, no matter what. We just got Hotaro the good boy. Also, first time seeing Giga's unique power of transmuting multiple chemi to somebody's body in order to create the Arc 1 amalgam, which is pretty cool to see. As well as Gotchard Daybreak coming back at the end in order to tease the summer film. And the first instance of Nichikan being revealed here, as it protects Hotaro from a meteorite, and Giga is ready to start his plan in order to acquire the fragment of the Philosopher's Stone in the following episode. This is the second to the last part of the Kyoto story arc, with Hijiri Kajiki, as the first introduction of Gold Mechanic, and Kajiki being desperate to meet Hijiri one last time, finding out that her brother is a psychopath or burning thing, and making her into amalgam. And which is interesting to know that two people can become amalgam at the same time, as one after another, which is never taken advantage of, which is a little sad. I will continue the characterization of Hotaro not wanting Hijiri to kill her own brother, and it's pretty nice to know that it was Kajiki that actually saves her, not Hotaro, and Hotaro just delivered the final blow, which is nice to see that Kajiki is the one to get through to her, because it is his story. And even with the memory eraser, a faithful encounter between these two people happened. Also, I forgot that this is the intro of Hiketsu Rose form, which is never used again. I know Kyoto catching UFO X for the completion of the Dread Driver. First time seeing Grion and Minato interact with one another to help show that they know each other in the past, as well as something happening to Minato. Also, Daybreak telling Hotaro that he will lose somebody important, but doesn't know it was meant for Rina in the future movie. This is the first time Spanner and Kyoka play chess, which would be a running little thing going along between them. And the first instance how she saved him from the past. Although the three sisters become part of the Alchemy Association, with nothing really changes from the little plot development, or how the association wiped it under the rug. Again, that plot point dead. Ultimately ends up becoming Dread and taking Spanner's little power, and the whole gang had to retreat. An episode where UFO X escapes, as well as introducing the topic that level 10 can't be controlled, until Hotaro being the good boy, does it in 2 episodes and a film. As well as introducing Inspector Kugimiya and Harima. And it just started to accompany the higher up in the association, as well as the traitor being hinted, which is just Harima. And it's pretty saddening that it's not really a mystery built up for multiple episodes, just Harima introduced, and then she gets revealed to be a traitor. Kugimiya had more plans to be made for the crossover film with Geet for the Gotchard, the main villain there. As well as this episode that completed the Dread Driver and some characteristic of Sabi speaking of the Kugimiya that would later hurt us when he's taken away from her in the next episode. Also, Spider not agreeing with the method that Kugimiya does in the episode, which is interesting to know that it never actually bring back up later in the show. I mean, a Tropo talk again, you know, the same thing about hurting people, the basic thing. Although the introduction of Lightning Jungle this episode was the use of forbidden alchemy in the show. That doesn't really do much until the Abyssal King come into play with that topic, along with Grion. Nice episode overall, but still, could have been a lot more better with the spy storyline. Everyone gets the memory back, as both enemies and old friends come for Hotaro and the Kemi, and a little present Rina gets from Gallia that will lead to some plan for her in the future for her final form. Tachan comes back to somehow find a way to break into the alchemist base for some reason and start to ruin things for her again. Akira gets hurt, making Spanner steal his resolve to destroy all the Kemis, as well as alchemy as a whole, as well as the 3 kings. Spanner decides to make his move to eliminate the Kemi to protect humanity and his loved one, as the clash between Hotaro and Spanner's ideology commences. I mean to tell the trouble not to trust Grion to no avail, as she just ignores it to lead to her own fate. Pretty nice episode overall. This is the first episode after the summer film, and the final Kajiki focus episode, with learning that the Kemis are the thing. These memories are coming back faster due to the fact they've always been erased. His relationship with Hijiri is falling apart without these memories at all to keep it together. Gallia makes her move by bringing back old one-off villains to make her plan of people getting the memories back a success. I like as it focuses on her original host memory, trying to find who she was. Gallia getting rid of Kyoto power showed it was a waste of time to have the Abyssal gear, as Kajiki remembers his time with Hijiri and the Kemi and want to keep this faithful encounter forever. As Grion manipulates Tropo goes even further as Spanner learns from his Kamadon incident that some rules should be kept that will later be brought up in future episodes. This is the intro of the incomplete form of Iron Gotchard, as well as the Dread Type 1, and Fuga coming back but it's hidden from camera, but we all know it's Fuga. Mostly the obligatory recap episode for the first part of the episode, and interesting to know that the book is now called The Alchemist of Daybreak in this episode, from now and then for later episodes. We'll explain the history of the Kamen Rider in that world. We'll explain that the sisters are dolls, and the first time of something happening to Minato in the past, talking about Suzuya, as well as the gang losing all the Kebi cards, but in the ninth episode overall, our incomplete super form. This episode is where we come back to the plot after the legend stuff. I like it to want to continue being human with laughter, more of the association not doing anything to change the way that they don't worry about Gigas until they come marching through their door and attacking Spanner, seeing that he had the black flame like he does and want to start a storyline wanting him under his wing, and reveal that he was the monster from the Daybreak fairy tale, fighting against the Daybreak Alchemist, and that he was the one that helped make Gaiar Dragonolith. Also a new amalgam style with red and black form that he turned Skeballs into, which is sad to see him die in this episode, which just raises the stakes of who Gigas is as the villain, and a flower that Hopper 1 wants to find in order to solutionate the problem for the next episode. Also, this is the Time Lord is here, which is pretty interesting they bringing it back, Daybreak, into the storyline in order to set up the future movie. But still, saddening episode for a more faithful encounter for later on. This is the final of the Kajiki story with Hijiri, and the end of the nightly retrend of episode 10, and that they were meant to meet each other one day, and that they need the memory to live with one another, which Minato agrees that he'll keep the memories intact, as they have enjoyed some nice fireworks at the end. With as well as the other plot point how he likes to learn about her host not being a good person but still can't hate her, with saddening that we don't get to know about Kloto, human host, and to learn that she can fall in love with someone like Spanner, but that's not going to be revealed until later on in future episodes. I know Kalia making her plan of having everybody remember the memories from the Alchemist and Kemi. It's a thing that there's a VTuber announcing it before Tachan announces it in the following episode, and then never come back at the plot point, which is a little saddening to hear, but still not a bad episode for finishing our best boy Kajiki. An episode finding more information on how Kamadon was creation of both Sabi and his brother Kichi, and making Kichi get over his little unconfidence of having he not been the one to create Kamadon, revealing that he is the one that helped him create it. I will agree on coming in to steal Isaac in order to make a future plan of creating Kemi like El Dragon. I will create the Death Trooper for the film and for the final episode of A City of Gold. I will Kichi becoming Kamadon and they overcome problem with Sabi. I will Sabi using Kamadon to defeat a Dread Trooper in order to literally defeat a demon, ending his trauma with a knife rope for Sabi. Also agree on saying something to Mami that never know what he said to her. Oh well, hopefully a future storyline can get us to know what she said to him. The final episode of the series and the fact that it feels rushed with some of the story beat with the people wanting to help the Alchemist save the world, which comes out a little bit of nowhere, and the way that Fuga doesn't appear ever again as just in Rider 4. Koto gets killed with not much fanfare, but I do like the trend of the extra final form coming back from Gotcha Ultima and using it to save the world and making a new world with new alchemy created out of the gold of Grion and the Dread Trooper, making it feel like an early Heisei show from how he defeats Grion with Rising Fighter while criticizing Grion's thought on eternity not being good and we can't move on with our lives and we're stuck with eternity and just living in the moment instead of finding a way to help each other to continue moving forward, and how we can't push the new height. Alright, with a similar lesson that Nichigon got from his own episode. I feel like this could have been an hour-long episode, as the rumor said it was going to be an hour-long, but that never came to be. Would be fitted with my Akito comparison, finding out that it was 51 episodes, like Akito. I also like the fact that all the Kemis help Otoro defeat Grion, all of them get a fragment of the Philosopher's Stone, as Grion is satisfied with the chemistry he's seen as he died. Pretty much very Akito-like how Otoro believing in himself, carrying the hopes and dreams of humanity to the future, along with the Kemi, to make the world a reality of peace between them both, fulfilling Suzuya's dream that Minato is proud of for his own world. A little bit weird that all the adults do forget about the Kemi, which is a little weird, but a little bit understandable because they have a lot more important things in their lives. The more mundane everyday life makes it more tiring to make them remember things in the past. I just wondered it would have been better if it wasn't folktale, it'd just be like something from the past that they just remember, but still. Also Kaguya appearing, showing that he's the next crossover guy. A lot of setup for future content with Kaguya, as well as the first intro for Gab to start the next season with Kamen Rider Gab. A Rina-focused episode, as well as the first time having Akiko Inui writing for the show, and mostly on how Rina usually follows the rules for the majority of the time. Also forget that the amalgam doll Grion had a human form in this episode and never expanded on. Minato wanting Rina to enjoy the association but rejected at the end, making him proud of her. Also making his food special again, and even the amalgam doesn't want to eat it, which is a funny scene, it will always be remembered in my head. Also weird that the igniter overheats but never brought back the topic again, because of course it won't. Also Topo being vulnerable from getting attacked by Golden Attack, that Rina remembers her past that she was also vulnerable, and knowing that they're one and the same, more than that, because they are actually the same person in future episodes. Rina makes her own rule to turn into the secondary writer Mejedo. Also maybe forget that Fire Gotchard can also change to a different form, which is interesting to remember. It is confusing if you haven't watched the film yet, and it's just mostly the same plot point topic that she gets reiterated in this episode, as she just saved October from gold, and Grion saying that he didn't want to hurt her at all. I like it looking onward, playing out that you want to lead the team. So just Grion just being more of a jerk to make October be his pawn. This is a first time Spanner focused episode, learning about his past, that he was Grion's experiment 10 years ago. Spanner being jealous over Hotoro Rine being Rider and he's not, and that Kyoko first meets the gang formally, and Spanner's parents are back from the dead, but just come back to haunt him and part of Grion's plan. Also the first time that the black flames are important, that he can't really transform if he uses the black flame, and it's that how Spanner's happiness is cut short with his parents. Spanner becomes amalgam with Grion revealing himself to the gang, as Kyoko suppresses the memory so that he doesn't get taken by Grion to no effect. On the night that Kyoko has a scar from their time that always brought back later in future episodes. Night development of Spanner moving forward from here. Now we go on with the top 10, starting with Spanner and Hotoro fighting each other, as Spanner finally learned to not do everything by himself that he regurgitated all the way back from his debut at Kamen Rider Gotchard, as he is defeated by Hotoro, as he needs to leave in order to figure out what to do with his life, now with a destroyed driver that will commit to his final form to come. As Rina feels pain in her hand for her final form to debut in the following episode, as Koto takes the Tropos to Galia to start her own plan. It feels like a secondary writer trope of turning evil and fighting the main character for their own different ideology, and this time being idealism versus realism. A nice little topic to have, but still, feel more like a secondary writer versus primary writer fight. Also the theory how the ceremony he did make him become a king like Gigas, but never expanded on. Also Spanner's dream protecting the world and alchemy is revealed here, similar to Hotoro, making it more believable to him to actually want to follow Hotoro in the future episodes. Nice episode overall. Harima doesn't last as a traitor at all as she died in the episode. It would have been interesting to have more traitors in the story come out, but I digress. It brings out a topic associated and not wanting to change at all, as Sabi decided to turn into Dread, which is sad and scary to see the first time watching this episode. I really wish they would have set up Sabi becoming a writer in the future. Would have been really cool to see. Also the introduction of the Gotchard sword for the X form to use. I know Kugimiya wanted to know if Hotoro can handle the level 10 powers for his plan for the film of the crossover between Geet and Gotchard. Hotoro wanted to save Sabi without killing him in order to prove to Spanner that he could change the world and the rules of it. This is the first episode after the crossover film of Gotchard and Geet, where Grion's first appearance fully, and the first time forcing Lakin to turn into a golden amalgam, which starts the story of her not wanting to be underneath him anymore because she started to realize that they're expendable. Rina can't use alchemy, which is an excuse for plot's sake. Also first appearance of Kyoka, and knowing that Fuga is alive from the film. Also Grion interacting with Hotoro to start with a long hatred with one another and their different ideology in this episode. I love the intro for Gotchard Daybreak for future plot point in this episode starting going forward. We have a white man jump scare in the first few episodes. It's just funny to me to think that that teacher pretty much I think died in the beginning. Like he never comes back. I'm just gonna assume after Tropos blows him away that he just lands and dies, breaking his head. That's my headcanon. More of the association higher up not caring at all about one of their people turning evil. They just said that they should kill him, kill Sabi in order to save the world, which Hotoro doesn't agree with. Like Hotoro had the saying from his dad that his mom tells him about that helped him find the answer for helping Sabi, which is just saddening to know that the dad was built up but never shown ever in the entire show. I want to start Hotoro started to prove that he could change the rules in the world of alchemy starting with this episode. We needed to starting to believe in him because he started to be reminded of somebody from his past. I know the debut of the X form started with UFO X saving Sabi for a happy ending. Fuga revealed himself in the entire gang. We learned more about Minato's past with his friend Suzuya, who pretty much acted like Hotoro wanted to be a big shot alchemist to change the world for Kemi and humans to interact with one another, and then dying, making him to believe it's his fault for the reason that Suzuya died, and doesn't want to go through that again with Hotoro or his students. And it leads to some nice development for Minato, and important for future episode references to the event throughout the show for the topic and theme. At the start of Green chemistry and gold to divide the dark door. This is the final part of the episode of Spanner becoming a Kamen Rider, where Paragraph Gotchard actually died before they can harm Spanner further. I will have Spanner had the idea of only wanting to fight by himself, which will come back to bite him in future episodes. Lakin being worried that she'll be thrown away, which does happen in the future, and close to worry over her family unconsciously, as the whole gang decided to help Kyoka make the driver. It's nice to see that the entire gang feel like a family helping each other. Also the plan to kill Kyoka deferred the goal on Spanner to be loyal to the evil gang. And Minato and Kyoka talk as it seems like it's not really agree on side at all, as he doesn't take the driver or Kyoka's life. He just takes the driver and not Kyoka's life when he had a chance to. Nice moment of Spanner not turning into Amalgam, the black flame never leave him, as he remembered the time with his parent to Kyoka, which will be important further when the black turns silver in the future episode. Minato giving him the driver that he just conveniently dropped, as he becomes Kamen Rider Valveron in all its glory, but still think he can fight alone, which will crumble later in future episodes. And the night of this setup in this episode overall. The debut of Fire Gotchard, pretty interesting time travel concept that is definitely confusing, but it's nice to see how Hotoro interact with the Kemi in the Ouroboros realm when he was young. And nothing much came of it, how he entered there or not, which is confusing. And Hotoro making goggles that instantly come from a picture he drew of his dad in the future episode. And the fact that he uses it to make the igniter to become Fire Gotchard with a nice touch. Also the first instant that Grion is not human, he's attacked by Sabanito and nothing happened to him. I was the ones telling everybody that Fuga was a traitor. Also pretty nice to see that Fuga chose Hotaro to be the Gotchard in the past, as he had the right attitude to become somebody to protect the Kemi. Also, Rider Chick coming back to make another song, which is the best song of the entire show, and showing that the future can't be changed, as his fire form different from Gotchard Daybreak. As well, Hotaro finally writing down future plan being a big shot alchemist like Suzuya in the past. The debut of the true super form, Platinum Gotchard, and the debut of Crosshopper and Dread Type 2 and Type 3, as well as the defeat of Grion in a cool way. I do think it was a fun little thing to know that Grion's plan is just to turn things into gold for his El Dorado dream. And even Hotaro just questioned if that really is it, if that's his gotcha. Also, Juke Kumbaya being able to use block or throw power was a nice little callback to a filler episode being important. It would be cool to see more of the topic how the driver grew stronger with Hotaro as a host, but not really much, as how Lakita switched sides to help Minato into the Ouroboros realm. I do find it believable that the Kemi do want to help Hotaro with his dream, and the Hopper 1 actually talked through Isaac. We actually hear her talk for the first time, but never comes back into play. Would have been nice to see more Kemi talk through Isaac. And also level 10 giving him the power to become Crosshopper. Also, the confirmation that Jermaine ate Grion for future references, which is pretty weird that the Dark King is the one that ate Grion here. And then at the end of the second act, and we go to the filler episode and then the third act after this. A Hopper 1 focused episode that we didn't get much in the show. Nice to know until she died. But it had nice tension with the story that leads up to the final form debut. And the night that Hopper 1 tried to find a flower for Hotaro like in the story. And a nice scene between Hotaro and his mother in cheering him up like in the past with their father left and having the same goggle that he made as a kid. Later used for the igniter for Fire Gotchard. We just say that Nichiko is inside of Hotaro, but other episodes try to mix it around, say he's inside the driver, others say that he's in Hotaro. Like, it gets confusing trying to see which is correct. But it is cool to see how Trouble doesn't like Gigas for assaulting her and missing Grion. Also nice to see Hopper 1 Malcolm, and it's saddening that Hotaro needs to take her down. I wrote the line of the brighter the light, the darker the shadow would come to play in future episodes where that spider said to Gigas. And Hopper died, and Hotaro about to turn into amalgam to separate Nichigon. However, it just transformed into an egg and just disappeared, leading to the final form, which in turn is the #1 episode and my favorite episode of the entire Gotchard, Over the Rainbow. My favorite episode of the entire show, as well as my favorite final form debut for Rainbow Rider. As Giga is still trying to understand Hotaro's suffering without actually really knowing at all. With Rina blames herself, which is made from Sena focused episode, and how she's always been undecided and always hurting people, showing that the Sena episode is notable to having this character development. Until Rina Rider Rengen to get her act together in order to help Spander fight against Gigas. And I like that Nichigon act more like a lost child that doesn't want to see his brother and sister get hurt or turn into amalgam. I wanted Hotaro to stay inside the egg with him. Spander learning that the flames are like Gigas is for this episode to reveal more plot line later. And I like that Hotaro was like an older brother figure to Nichigon that is just there to help him hatch. And pretty funny how serious Nichigon is right now in the beginning before he hatches and actually act crazy and act cute, being staying gone all the time. He makes the food that helped with Nichigon being born, which is nice that he came back after the Zukumpire episode being the last time we see Hotaro cook. I like that Hotaro wanted to just go back to help his friend and mostly just development for Nichigon to not be scared and he can make friends too, and that the world it had some beautiful things and it could be scary but it's still beautiful out there. And it finally made alchemy for the first time to making a new rule with his Rainbow Gotchard, and like that he's still naming his own final form. And just comparing to cooking, which is just sad that we don't see a lot of comparison between cooking and alchemy. It would have been nice to see Hotaro do that more. And about making a new rule to make his Gotcha come true, and we see Rainbow debut. And Minato for sure that Suzuya's dream lives on in Hotaro, as the Sky the Limit played in the background for the first time, and it brings all the Kemi back to life for a brighter future at the last arc Dark. Overall, those were my episodes. What do you guys think about my least favorite to my most favorite? Or what do you guys think? Do you have your least favorite? Or what is your least favorite, most favorite episode? Or maybe you didn't like the season. You just want to tell me that you just hate all the episodes. Just tell me which episode you thought was the worst to you. Leave a comment down below, subscribe for more Kamen Rider content. Peace.